So the Dodgers were cheating too. We've been telling you this all along.
Yep.
Everybody was cheating. Everybody was taking signs. It was the worst kept secret ever. I saw Brian McCann being interviewed after the 2017 World Series because all this thing is like recycling. He's like, yeah, we basically had to change signs every other batter when nobody was on base. That stuff was going on all throughout the league. Anybody could see it. But everybody was like, oh, no, the Astros the only one. It's worse than steroids, blah, 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 blah. But this came out. This was Evan Drellich's book, right? This is where the excerpts are coming from. How do you say Evan's last name? We're going to have him on here in a couple weeks.
Drellich.
Drellich. Evan Drellich, who almost had his credential taken away when he was part of the Houston Astros beat. I wonder if there's some bitterness there. Then went off to the Boston Globe, then went to the Athletic. Of course, broke the story that said that the Astros are sign stealing amongst a Major League Baseball problem. But some excerpts coming out from the book that blast the Dodgers and accuse the Dodgers of cheating in the 2018 World Series as well. An unidentified member of the Red Sox accused the Dodgers of engaging in the same kind of subterfuge. The Dodgers have always been the thing that bothers me the most, said the member per the Boston Globe, where Evan Drellich used to work, because they're the biggest cheaters in the whole expletive industry. They were doing it against us in the 18 World Series. They got caught by Major League Baseball, and Major League Baseball did nothing. Pretty damning quotes accusing the Los Angeles Dodgers of cheating. Go look at some of the Los Angeles Dodgers in that 17-18 era and see how they did post-2018.
Plus, also look at and remember now, Eric Kratz, when he came out with the podcast that got a lot of run, he said when he was catching for Milwaukee and they were playing the Dodgers in the playoffs, they knew that the Dodgers were doing the cheating, the sign stealing, and doing as much cheating as they possibly could. And again, they just had to make the best of trying to change their signals and prevent them from getting all the intel that they could, as opposed to Major League Baseball stepping in and doing something about it. And you can go on and on with all the different people that called out. Ryan Spader was another guy that called out the Dodgers and was talking about the fact that they knew the Dodgers, like the Yankees, with the cameras and all the different things that they were doing in center field. But then it was not going to be pursued by Major League Baseball, and the stepchildren that were going to be the ones that were going to be called out and be the poster children of all this was going to be the Houston Astros. And you start wondering if the Astros don't win. I was thinking about this morning, and I was curious your guys' thoughts. Were the Astros the poster boys because they won it in 17? If the Dodgers end up winning the World Series and then there's rumors of cheating at all, do the Dodgers become those poster boys, or is it always going to be the lesser market size?
It was the Astros all along for a variety of reasons, in my opinion.
I think there's one.
You think I think there's two specifically. Evan Drellich, what are we calling him?
Yeah, Drellich.
Drellich.
Fires?
Two.
Exactly.
That's the second thing.
Okay.
Evan Drellich, one, was bitter to the Houston Astros because he didn't like the organization and they threatened to revoke his media pass while he was covering the Astros beat. And I think he forever harbored some bitterness towards the Houston Astros, which isn't like he isn't the only media member to do that. Like the media hated the Astros because they acted with arrogance. Jeff Luhnow acted with arrogance. The whole Taubman situation, Allison Footer hated the Astros. I think Chandler Rome doesn't really like the Astros. A lot of the national people didn't love the Astros because of their attitude and the way that they treated people, the way that they reacted towards the media. And I think Drellich here had some bitterness involved that, the Astros were the Astros. What was he covering it with? Was it the Chronicle?
Yeah, he was Chronicle.
He was a Chronicle beat writer. His editor had to defend his honor to keep him on the beat. So the Astros were trying to get him fired. So you can understand that would have some bitterness attached with that. And then the second thing was that they needed a player to go on the record, and Mike Fiers was willing to go on the record. No one else was. And it was directly about the Houston Astros. So I think it's those two things, probably the Fiers thing more than anything else.
No, actually, now that you put it that way, I think that it is the two things that make
the fire.
Yeah, it's Drellich he has an axe to grind.
Yep.
And you got the biggest rat in the history of sports.
Because I think that's a great point by both of you, because in thinking it, I was just wondering, was there ever a chance that anybody else could have been the poster children than the Astros?
I don't think.
And I think you're right, because I think if you're a player involved in this, the last thing you're going to do, whether you were involved or just connected to it by being on the team, you're not going to sell them out, because it sells yourself out in the process, and it's a bad look for you, your career, your stats, and whatever. I don't know what kind of player this person was if you're going to come out from the Dodgers.
Well, they didn't go on record.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But if you did find someone that would, the Dodgers had a lot of good players, but there were some people kind of hinting, was it Chase Utley, or was it who were the guys cheating?
I saw somebody say Mookie Betts,
and then other people saying, Because this is like we go up and down the list of the former Red Sox that were on the Dodgers as well. And don't think just that everybody that's been through cheating doesn't have their own that they bring to the table, just like Beltran and Cora did when they came here. So it's curious, but at the same time, it's just infuriating because Major League Baseball made the Astros the poster children. They wanted to make this all about Houston. They've been in complete denial, and we've talked about it over and over again. We don't know when and how distant the player or players have to be to come out and say, I got nothing left to lose. Now I can spray some bullets, write a book, do whatever to tell you what really happened. But we've been adamant all along that this hasn't been just an Astros thing. It's been a league-wide thing.
And I honestly believe that people like in the game, inside the industry, maybe not the writers and the media, but the executives, the GMs, the managers, the players, I don't think they care at all about this. And they've even acted that way, too. I always point to Alex Cora having a job immediately after his suspension was over. A.J. Hinch immediately had a job after his suspension was over. Toronto spent big money on George Springer. Minnesota spent big money on Carlos Correa.
And Marwin Gonzalez before that. Marwin was deep in it, and they gave him $14 a year.
They didn't know it yet. The story hadn't come out yet with Marwin Gonzalez. Marwin Gonzalez was a free agent right after that. So the story hadn't come out yet. But all of these people that were involved immediately had other jobs other than Jeff Luhnow. That's because people didn't like Jeff Luhnow. And I think he's gotten blackballed out of baseball. But all these other people, they have no issues at all. Even the original story from Rosenthal and Drellich, and the reason they used Rosenthal was because Drellich needed some clout associated with the story because he knew that his name alone wasn't going to push this across. The headline from the original story was the Astros stole signs electronically in 2017 part of a much broader issue for Major League Baseball. Everybody in the game knew it was wildly going on. But because Drellich, I think, had an axe to grind, and because Mike Fiers was willing to go on record, it made the Astros, who's mid-market, they're not the Yankees, they're not the Dodgers, they're not the Red Sox, and made them the easy target.
But also, Rob Manfred, they only punished the Astros. Like in the tweets we're using here, there's a follow-up that Jock Peterson went into the visitors' clubhouse where Chase Utley is sitting with an MLB official and says, quote, hey, did you get the signs yet?
Yep.
Major League Baseball knew. Eric Kratz said that the Rockies were stealing signs by using a massage gun. I was at a Cubs game versus the Brewers in which Yu Darvish stepped off the mound because he thought the Brewers were giving signs from right field. Joey Votto, all these guys have said everyone's cheating. But Rob Manfred is a coward and will not punish anyone else. And frankly, all these guys have the opportunity to ask Rob Manfred this question, to read these quotes verbatim back to it, and they do not. No one will put this guy in the hot seat.
The reason that he can't punish him, though, is because of the collective bargaining agreement.
But make him acknowledge it.
That was the Astros' mistake in all of this, is that they were willing to comply with the investigation when, if they would have just said, no, we're not going to comply with the investigation, that this story might get written still. It still would have gotten written. But if you don't take part in the investigation, you would have been safe by the entire collective bargaining agreement. It's why the Red Sox in 2018 did not speak to anybody in Major League Baseball. That's where the Astros went wrong. Any sort of threat that there was going to be suspension there would not have been something that was fruitful.
No, you're absolutely right. And look, when you look at the bigger picture and everyone to blame, and to your point earlier, which is this hammers it home, the fact that basically Mike Fiers has been blackballed by all of Major League Baseball, with the exception of one team that had one of the lowest budgets that was just trying to catch cheap pitching and do what they needed to do to survive. Almost everybody else, players and teams in baseball, were pissed off at Mike Fiers because they know forever and a day sign stealing's been happening. It's just now that you're implementing technology to get it done and cameras and Apple Watches and things, instead of just being savvy enough to be able to pick up indicators and be in the right position around the stadium to see certain views of the catcher and the third base coach and whatever and the manager. That's the thing. People knew that it was forever and a day since the sport started, there's been sign stealing. So everybody was doing it. And I think there was a lot of people pretty pissed off at Mike Fiers in the fact that if he doesn't blow the whistle and he doesn't make this a massive deal, everybody's still doing it. Everybody, it's who's best at being able to capitalize on resources and otherwise to do it. But it's part of the game in most people's mind.